and it looks like we are good to go. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dennis Diamondopoulos. I'm here with Tom O'Hagan. We're two of the regional operations managers for Pentair Food Service. We will be presenting a seminar on point-of-use filtration, installation, and startup. This presentation was created by Larry Pinkerton, but Tom and I will be presenting. And also there will be an encore on Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Time. So just a brief overview of what we will go over today. The importance of the site survey, materials and tools, what makes a good installation in the eyes of the customer, sanitizing and startup, and the importance of closing the call with the customer. So let's start with a site survey. During the site survey, an independent service person, dealer, distributor, or factory field personnel will have an opportunity to review a commercial location and determine what utility connections are available, what space can be used for equipment to be installed. They can perform water testing on site and or take a sample from the site to send to a laboratory. Photos should usually be taken. Those are very useful. Other considerations, that will depend on the customer's specific needs or is determined by the person conducting the survey. You really have to take sort of a broad view of what is present in the store and look at each individual case independently. So this is very important in order to do a profitable and professional installation. I'm sure you've heard the old carpenter's adage, measure twice and cut once. Repeated site visits, unexpected service and labor, and the need to replace misspecified equipment costs you and your customer money, and it reduces your profit. So this is really, really critical that you conduct a site survey of some type. Now here's an example of a site survey form that Pentair Food Service uses. And it's just to give you an idea that they're going to be different. Sometimes you'll have special accounts that have specific requirements. But this is a good general one, and you'll note some of the things that are asked in this survey are the distance from the plumbing, where the equipment will be installed, the distance from there to the plumbing. If you have softened water available, are there check valves between the softener and the water heater? Is it a tankless water heater or a boiler-based? Also, you'll want to know what is the plumbing material and pipe diameter. Also, you'll want to know what sort of power is available where the equipment will be installed. The second part of the form, just some additional things, drain availability, shelving, racks, space, those sorts of things, service bypass. So there are a lot of important things to look at when you're doing your site survey. Also, you'll note at the bottom there's some questions pertaining to water quality. So all very important information, and there could certainly be more than just these items. So to summarize, what information do you collect? You'll want to measure the available space, notate shelving that's present, notate anything that may be in the way of the equipment, determine what kind of plumbing and electrical connections are available. And now, these items are critical in case the customer needs to have their plumbing contractor or electrician make changes before the filtration equipment arrives. In most cases, the water treatment specialist who installs much of this type of equipment is not qualified to do the plumbing and electrical. So oftentimes that will need to be done before the installation can take place. So, one very important reason the survey needs to be done thoroughly to make sure that you can keep up with your intended schedule. So you can test the water quality on site, test the water temperature, determine if you need a tempering valve if installing an RO system. Take a sample that you can send to a laboratory for a full water analysis if necessary. Of course, take lots of photos. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And make a list of all the materials and tools required. So let's talk about materials and tools. Just a quick summary of what we'll discuss. Methods of joining pipe, types of pipe and fittings, types of valves, pipe hangers and supports, wall anchors, types of installations, tools for starting up and maintaining RO systems, general tools of the trade, safety tools, and very important, local code considerations. So here's a chart showing many of the types of ways that you can join pipe. You can see there's quite a few possibilities here, anywhere from plastic tubing types to metal and metal fittings, plastic fittings. You can see there's steel, glass, brass, cast iron, copper, plastic, and various types of tube. And then there are various ways to assemble these components, whether it's threaded connections, welding, soldering, flange connections, and others. Now, for our purposes, we'll want to pay attention to the highlighted columns here. These are the common components used in food service installations. So these are the ones that will be most relevant to us. So let's talk about that a bit more. So the types of pipe and fittings, because there's so many ways, we will narrow it down for what's relevant to the food service industry. So we use copper tubing, beverage tubing, poly tubing, and with those copper fittings and plastic fittings of various types. Let's talk about copper pipe, as there's two separate classes. The first class consists of types K, L, M, and DWV. Types K, L, and M are used for pressurized potable water systems. K is the thickest, M is the smallest wall, and L is in the middle. For each nominal size, the outer diameter is the same as the inner diameter. The outer diameter is the same and the inner diameter changes with the wall thickness. So wall thickness changes within the three types. Then the DWV, that stands for drain, waste, and vent, is used for non-pressurized drain, waste, and vent applications. Now the second class, ACR tube, is used for air conditioning and refrigeration applications. And in case you're at the hardware store looking for some home improvement items, or if you're actually looking for an installation, if you're not familiar with the different types of copper, they are color-coded. So you'll see the ones that are coated with the green are the type K, blue would be type L, red would be type M, and a yellow would be the type for the drain, waste, and vent. So here's some of the techniques for installing copper fittings. You can see that one of the traditional ways is the soldering approach. And one of the, of course, there's also the flaring technique. And one of the more current options that is utilized are the shark bite connections, which are, if you're familiar with John Guest fittings, these are similar. They're for copper. So plastic piping, there are several types of plastic pipe used. Polybutylene, polyethylene, also known as PEX, polypropylene, polyvinyl chloride, we know that as PVC, chlorinated polyvinyl chloride, which is CPVC. Each of these has certain characteristics which make it more suitable for particular applications. We'll talk more about how you know which material to use for which application. Now for making the connections, there are various types of options with plastic fittings. Again, we talked about John Guest type quick connect fittings. There's also the threaded connections and others. Here's some of the tools and materials that are used in installing plastic fittings. You may or may not be familiar with some of these, but if you're already an installer, I'm sure a lot of this you already know. But for those of you who are not installers, it really is a good thing to know about how our equipment gets put into place. Here's a variety of different types of valves. So you can see there are gate valves, ball valves, needle valves, butterfly valves, check valves. Some of the items not shown, mechanical or electronic solenoid valves. There's quite a lot of options. And again, we'll talk more about how it's determined which materials are needed. In order to conduct a good installation, you will want to use hangers and supports to secure your piping or tubing. You don't want a whole lot of loops and dangling tubing that can be caught or tangled with an operator of the business. That can lead to leaks and floods. So you want to secure piping and tubing in such a way that it's out of the way and stable and also looks good. A good-looking installation, obviously that's going to leave a better impression with the customer and remind them to use you in the future. Different types of wall anchors. Obviously, the correct wall anchor to use will depend upon what material you're securing your equipment to, whether it's drywall, cement, or solid good wood. You want to make sure that the anchor you use is appropriate for the wall material and also for the weight load that the anchor and screw will carry. Here's some pictures of a few types of installations. You may recognize the MRS 600 HE2 system in the top left. On the top right, you'll see a water softener installation. Bottom right, that is a home spring system. And on the left, you see some plastic piping with different valves installed. Let's talk a little bit about tools that you can use for startup and maintenance of an RO system. TDS meters, air pressure gauges, voltmeters, thermometers. These are all critical components. A 5/64 Allen wrench, a 1 liter graduated container that allows you to measure flow rates. Along with that, a stopwatch. Also, a 5-way test strip kit is a good thing to have. You can see if there's chlorine in the water. You can tell the pH, hardness, and other water quality characteristics. Also not listed, but a good idea to have would be a water hardness titration kit. That'll be a little bit more accurate than the 5-way test strip approach. And of course, you'll want to have a food-grade silicone gel lubricant. Always go food grade, since this is going to be potable water applications. Now, some of the tools of the trade. Of course, tape measures are critical. Oftentimes, you'll need a drill and drill bits to prepare to mount your equipment. A level is important to make sure you're mounting the equipment in an even and level state. A good ladder that has the appropriate weight tolerance. Plenty of screwdrivers, and definitely have a flashlight. And there are going to be other tools depending on the specific application. Now, don't forget about safety. You'll always want to wear your eye protection. If there's going to be a lot of noise involved in the setting, if you're in a construction area doing a installation in a brand new store, if there's very loud construction going on, please protect your ears. Make sure that you take into consideration appropriate electrical load. You don't want to overload an extension cord or create a rat's nest of wires. So, potentially going to lead to a fire. Use the proper ventilation protection, hand protection, and please avoid broken ladders. If you're going to be doing heavy lifting, make sure you protect your back with a back brace. It's always a good idea to invest in some good steel-toed boots. If you drop something on your toes, obviously it's better to have steel toes in your shoes when that happens. I alluded earlier to how do you determine what kind of materials you can use, what kind of piping material, fittings, electrical considerations, and others. You really will need to be familiar with your local building and plumbing codes. They'll determine what materials you can use, where you can place your filtration equipment, how you install your pipes and drains. One code violation can keep a store from opening for business and can require additional work, which means additional costs for repeat visits. Fitting materials, as I said, can be affected, anchors, hangers, others, and some areas require NSF certification on a water treatment device before it can be installed. Or, like in the city of Los Angeles, the equipment has to be on the list of approved items that the city has authorized for installation. Also consider some areas do not allow brine to be disposed of in the sewer, so water softeners will be affected by those kinds of local laws. And also be aware of requirements for air gaps. In general, it's good to make sure you have an appropriate air gap. So what makes a good installation in the eyes of the customer? Obviously, this is not a good example of what you want to see. I mentioned earlier unlevel pipes, rat's nest in terms of wiring, but if you're in the back of a lot of restaurants, you'll see a lot of this. And it's really hard to troubleshoot issues, to trace lines when it's a huge mess like this. If you're installing new equipment, you want to avoid contributing to this kind of a mess. You want to avoid leaving the walls dirty, leaving excess holes in the walls. As I said, loose pipes are a risk. You want to make sure the filtration is not falling off of the wall. That goes back to the anchors that you use. And the list goes on. Here's a nice solution Pentair Food Service came up with, I believe it was last year. It's called a SimpliFlow. And this is a nice way to sell your customer on cleaning up that rat's nest that we saw in the previous slide. There's a variety of configurations, and this will really organize the tubing, make it easier to troubleshoot problems, and make it less intimidating and more aesthetically pleasing. So this is something that I think you should really be offering to your customer as a solution, in addition to the water treatment equipment. Sanitizing and startup. You've put together a great looking installation. Everything is working properly. Now you'll want to make sure that it's safe and bacteria free. Water Quality Association recommends that you sanitize every installation. The nice thing about using odorless, I should say a scent-free chlorine bleach is that it will not only kill bacteria and those associated off-tastes and odors, it will also remove the taste of flux and other plumbing materials. It has, I consider bleach to be the universal oxidant. I think that's why a lot of municipalities use bleach for their water treatment to knock out things like iron and manganese and bacteria. But from a plumbing perspective, you know, that new plastic taste, or as we talked about, flux and other odors, most of these can be knocked out by a good concentration of bleach flushing through the lines. So you'll want to follow your equipment manufacturer's manual for guidelines on sanitizing the equipment. And we do offer some kits that are appropriate for helping sanitize the system. Another quick note, a good way to tell if you've achieved the appropriate chlorine concentration, as indicated in your manufacturer's manual, is to use a chlorine test strip and see what the chlorine concentration is. And you will want to flush the chlorine out of the lines and test and make sure that there's not too high of a residual chlorine left after your flushing. And that can be done with the test strips. Let's talk about commissioning filtration equipment. NSF requires all filtration be flushed without exception. Flushing is used to rid particulate matter and air from the filtration, and the requirements for flushing will depend on the manufacturer and the type of filtration or carbon. You'll want to usually flush for at least a few minutes, but in some cases, as with some reverse osmosis systems, it will need to be significantly longer, so please refer to the manual for that guideline. When commissioning your filtration equipment, you'll also want to set if there's a bypass setting, such as with the Claris. You'll want to make the appropriate adjustments there. If you have a system like the new Pentair Endurance system, which has 3 different stages of water treatment involved, some of these require air to be purged. Well, all 3 require air to be purged. In the case of the carbon filter, you'll want to flush to get any particulate out as well. Now, all 3 stages of flushing can be done in a single flush, but the point is there's various reasons why flushing is taking place. Now, with reverse osmosis, there is more commissioning that is required. Of course, the filters need to be flushed and air needs to be removed, but also sometimes there's a preservative in the reverse osmosis cartridge that needs to be flushed out. Also, in the case with some of our modern reverse osmosis systems that have a TDS blending feature, you'll want to adjust that blend to get the ideal TDS number based on your customer's application. Also, if you're looking at a water softener application, there are other considerations with commissioning those as well. So, not something to be overlooked. You know, there's more to an installation than just putting the system on the wall and connecting the plumbing. Now, let's talk quickly about the importance of closing the call with the customer. Before you close the installation, you'll want to make sure and clean up all your equipment and all the debris that may have been created during the installation. I mentioned earlier, a good impression of the work area and the work you've done will make the customer more receptive to any future business propositions you may ask when you close the call. You'll also want to explain to the customer how the system works. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a store and the customers really didn't know how the equipment worked or what their role was in maintenance or putting a system into bypass if it has that feature. So you want to show the customer how to turn it off, how to bypass the system, how to change the filters, or if they would need to contact a service provider to do so, you would instruct them on that. You want to give the customer any emergency contact information. And also a copy of the manual doesn't hurt. If there's a water softener involved, make sure and explain to the customer how critical it is that they keep the salt levels up in the brine tank. All very important aspects of the installation. So a good installer can be the best salesman. A customer who's seen a nice, clean job done by someone who cares tells the customer about the importance of maintaining the new system. You'd offer a preventative maintenance contract if appropriate. If you have it at your disposal, recommend an auto ship program to remind the customer when the filters need to be changed. A lot of times customers, they lose track. They don't know that they're supposed to do anything. So an auto ship program helps to alleviate that issue and prevent service calls that weren't really necessary. You can proactively have the equipment auto shipped to the customer. Another thing is you can prospect for additional business while on site. Offer to do a site survey on the rest of the property. There's probably some other opportunities there for you. You can ask the customer if they're having any issues with other water-using equipment. Or find out if they have any colleagues at other locations who have similar issues who you might be able to help. We appreciate your taking the time to join us and your support of this training program in general. In order to help us keep getting better, if you would take just a couple minutes and go to this website and take our survey. If you would please copy this survey link down, and then when you have a minute, go take it. I think it's maybe 5, 6 questions, not a very long survey. And this just helps us to pick good topics for future presentations, and also to make our presentations better and more appropriate for your needs. With that, I will open the phone system up to questions. In the meantime, while we're doing that, I will leave our survey link up.
The leader has unmuted your line.
All right, we're open for questions now. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you there?
Yes.
Hi. Is this located on the Panther Library?
It isn't yet. It isn't yet, but it will be. We're going to do an encore presentation on Thursday, and then it usually takes a week or two, and then it's loaded into the library, the Panther Library.
Okay. Right, thank you.
It will be available in the future. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions?
Oh my gosh.
Well, in case anyone thinks of any additional questions, we'll be here for a few more minutes. And I'll leave the survey link up. Please, again, take a couple minutes and take that survey. It really helps to drive our progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.